Good afternoon, everybody. We're due to start at 12. We're just going to give people another minute or two, if that's okay, and then we'll kick off with our presentation around accelerating workplace productivity with AI. And we'll do the introduction shortly, but we're just going to give it another minute or so, as I say. Just to let you know as well, the session will be recorded and we will send it out to all participants and people who've registered at the end of the session. So no worries, no need to take notes or anything like that. It will be sent out, as I said, to everybody who's registered. Right, without further ado, I'm just going to share my screen and start the presentation. So if you could just let me know if you can, are you able to see that? Brilliant.
Yeah, all good.
Fantastic. I'll just stop doing that. Sorry, just bear with me. Fantastic. So welcome along to Accelerating Workplace Productivity with Artificial Intelligence. One thing I want to point out straight away, today is not going to be death by PowerPoint. We've got a couple of slides around the fundamentals of Copilot to start with, and then my colleague Liam is going to talk you through the AI avatars, but there's very much live demos. I'm going to talk you through actually how you do things live and on screen, which is always interesting and exciting. But before we kick off, for those that don't know me, my name is Richard Stoddart. I'm the Patient Communications Director at Redmore. And we've got my colleague on the call as well, Liam, who will be doing the second half of the presentation, and Liam's a digital marketing advisor. So just to give you a quick overview of the agenda, the run through the Copilot fundamentals, we'll touch upon Copilot in Outlook, and how you actually tame your inbox, and then I'll follow up with a further session around Copilot in Teams, looking at smarter meetings and chats. Got some fantastic examples of how you can leverage Copilot with post-meeting. And then Liam's going to take through the session around transition, moving beyond text to video, and then finally run through a AI avatar case study run through. If anyone does have any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat, and we'll certain intervals, we'll just check with my colleagues to see if there are any questions. So without further ado, we've just got a couple of quick fundamental slides, as I say. So for those people who are unaware, Copilot for 365, it's an AI assistant that helps you work faster, smarter, utilising your content and data. Copilot, and I'll keep re-emphasising this all the way through, it's not one single button. It shows up in Word, it shows up in a PowerPoint, in Excel, in Outlook, in Teams. And the idea around it is to draft and summarise and analyse and automate everyday tasks in the workplace. So what Copilot can do. First and foremost, it can draft and rewrite documents and messages. Again, I've got some really good examples for you around that. It can summarize content and pull action items together. It can help with emails and meetings and recaps and follow-ups. And as I mentioned, it can analyze and explain Excel data and formulas. Those people who are worried about Excel, don't worry, we don't touch upon Excel today. But if anyone does want to know where the button is, I'm more than happy to show them after the session. And again, the big thing about Copilot is automating repetitive tasks with reusable prompts. What it can't do, this is really important to point out, Copilot cannot see files you don't have access to. It doesn't make somebody, is somebody just come off mute? Sorry, that's gone now, fine. Yeah, so just to re-emphasize, Copilot cannot see files you do not have access to, so it can only analyze anything that's within your shared drive and your teams. It doesn't make decisions for you, and it won't change anything without you approving it. So ultimately, you always got to remember it's yourself pressing the left mouse button or pressing enter. And what it does, Copilot, it works within your permissions, and it always shows answers in that context. So that's the fundamentals of the PowerPoint slides out of the way. So what I'm going to do now, without further ado, is I'm going to move on to a real life example. So hopefully you can all see my inbox here. Just to let you know, if it does look slightly different to your inbox, we're on the latest version of 365. Conscious that sometimes ICBs don't release the latest 365 Outlook. So if it just looks slightly different, don't worry. Copilot, as I said, it shows up in many different ways. So there's a Copilot button at the top there, in the top right corner, hopefully you can see. But also, within the actual body of the new email here, you can see start typing or help me to write. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to zoom in as well because I'm conscious. So I'm just going to make that a little bit bigger for everybody. And what we're going to do here, first and foremost, is I've got some prompts on my second screen. So I'm just going to copy them and paste them over. So I'm looking for Copilot to write me a formal email requesting leave from the 20th of September to the 1st of October, including line about handover of work. Keep in mind the examples I am showing you today are relatively simple, but you could easily type this email out, but want to show you what Copilot does, but by keeping the examples really simple. So we've clicked help me write it, and you can see on the right hand side now the box is drafted up, and straight away there you go, you've got an email. So it's constructed it really well. A nice layout. It's got the details I asked in the 20th of September to the 1st of October. And then it's added an extra element in around, I want to ensure the current work's up to date. So can we have a full handover? Now, I just realized as well that I want to have actually a one-to-one when I get back. So I forgot to include that in my initial request. So on the right-hand side of the bottom now, I'm just going to include a further prompt saying, can you add a paragraph about a one-to-one on my return from leave, capture anything I've missed, and ask for your availability dates on building a new building project. So again, I get that running. Copilot's now thinking and the draft assistant's kicking in on the right hand side, as you can see over here, and it's now done that. Now what it's done, as I mentioned initially, I am the one that's pressing replace here. If I don't like it, I can get rid of it. But you can see now it's added in the paragraph there that I suggested. So I'm simply going to replace that there now. So again, we've got a really good structure of an email. It's obviously a bit formal. I get on really well with my manager. So what I've actually decided to do now, again, if I draw your attention to the bottom right corner, I'm just going to say finish with a joke. Now, the reason I like to include this example is to show you the context of how Copilot can work. Obviously, we're all in very formal settings, but Copilot, let's just see what joke it's actually come up with. Right, so they're not the funniest jokes in the world, but you can see as a final reassurance, I promise my out of office message will be more responsive than the building project timeline seems to be. Not the most humorous joke in the world, as I say, but the reason I show that example is you're changing the tone of the email, and Copilot's able to do that for you. So one of the examples it's really beneficial is if you're structuring an email around a complaint. If you've got a difficult email, you can throw that into Copilot and say, how do I respond to this? Not many people like dealing with complaints, so some people put them off, but put it into Copilot, set the tone that you want to address, and Copilot will kick that back out for you. Is there any questions at all from anybody? I just can't see my screen. Liam, is there any questions at all?
Yeah, we've had a few in the chat. Do you want me to just read them out? Do you want to go?
Yeah, if you don't mind, please.
So we've got a couple of people that have just been asking or been mentioning that they don't have Copilot included within their license.
Yes, so there's a rollout across ICBs at the moment in certain areas. So just to point out, if you don't have it, the best thing to do is contact your IT and see if your ICB is partaking with Copilot. The licenses have been procured nationally from Microsoft, but just to let you know, obviously each ICB and CSU works at different speeds. So some people are trialing it now. I know in the south of the country. But best thing to do is just speak to your IT department.
Yeah, I think you've answered a good few questions in there. There was then another question from Debbie. How do you get that prompt on your email? So I'm going to guess the first prompt.
Yeah, so the first prompt, it's automatically there, Debbie. And so just to reiterate, I'll just close that one down. I don't want to save that draft. So simply clicking new, top left. And if Copilot is installed, it automatically just pops up there. And you simply click to help me write. So what we've done there is we've constructed a new email, but what we're going to do now is, and this is just for anybody out there from a GDPR point of view, this is a made up conversation between myself and my colleague. It's not the longest thread in the world, but we're just talking about what we're doing at weekend, any plans. I'm talking about watching cricket, for example. So the idea around this example is if you've got a long thread that you obviously takes a bit of time to read through, At the top, again, I said Copilot appears in many different ways. There now is a summary button. So rather than read through all this email, I'm going to click on the summary button, and what it's going to start doing now, it's scanning the entire conversation, and you can see straight away it's populating it. So we can read through this really quickly. Me and Chris have discussed plans for the weekend on our availability for a Copilot session, suggesting Monday at 1. The main unresolved issue is dealing with data set to use from the sales for a local fruit and veg stall. Chris wanted to see the data. He asked me then if there's any gardeners from regular maintenance. I say again, just to emphasize, it's a completely made up conversation. And then I offered contact details for 2 gardeners, confirmed I can provide them. And then finally, the Copilot session is scheduled for next week. So you can see really quickly what that email thread is about. Again, it's a short email, but you've now got a really understanding of what it's about. If you think about some of the threads that you're involved, you're able to select that button and it'll give you a really good insight. So following up on that, we're going to ask Copilot some more questions. So we're still within this email thread. You can see there because the email sign's at the top there. I'm going to say, were there any key decisions, if I could spell that right. So we've got a summary, and now Copilot is, you can see it's on the right hand side, it's now pulling together that the Copilot demo should use charts rather than rows of data. Data sets still needs to be chosen, and then down here it's got the actions that we needs to be addressing. So what I can do again, Copilot is absolutely fantastic at giving you further prompts. So I'm just going to summarize the unresolved decisions. That pops up there. You click that. And here we go. So we can now take this away, a mini project plan for decisions that me and Chris need to make. But as you can see, from this long email thread, you can see how you've summarized it. And now we can see how we've got these to take away, put on a project plan, and our actions are now implementable off that plan. So just to summarize around your inbox efficiency, what it's able to help you do is triage your emails faster and reduce the time spending interpreting complex messages. Remember, review everything, always check for errors, and ultimately it's yourself hitting send. So any further questions on Outlook, Liam?
Yeah, we've had a couple more come through. A couple of people just mentioned that they don't have the Copilot icon in their Outlook.
Yeah, again, that's just that once your license has been added to your profile, you just need to restart it and it'll get added automatically. So just check your IT.
We had a question from Jesse as well. Is it possible to access Copilot Studio?
Again, that comes down to what access that they give you from your IT. But yeah, we've got it turned on. It's just whether your IT allow it.
And then Lorna's just asked, is it only in the new Outlook version or is it in the old Outlook version too?
Yes, unfortunately, you've got to be in the new Outlook version. As you can see, I am. Some people don't like the new Outlook. Unfortunately, Microsoft has stopped supporting the old version. And as I said, there's no Copilot in it. So again, it's more or less forcing you to change over to the new Outlook. Brilliant. So second element, I'm going to move on to Teams. So hopefully you can see this is Microsoft Teams, and I've got all my chats and my Teams down the left-hand side. As I mentioned before, Copilot appears in many different ways. This is a conversation I'm having with a colleague. The button pops up there in the top right. However, you've got a generic button on the left-hand side. So keep in mind we're now in Teams. So Microsoft's asking me, how can we help? I'm just going to do a new one. I was just testing this before. So I'm just going to do a quick question to Microsoft. Teams, simply, what meetings do I have this week? Now, again, I could have a quick look at my calendar. I understand that. But what Microsoft is going to do here, Copilot's going to do here, is going to go in my calendar and it's going to actually break down several things for us. So you can see it's found 20 meetings and events for me this week, and including the meeting we're just in here now. If I were to click on that, it would take me directly to that meeting as well, which is fantastic. It's got the time, obviously, which is brilliant, but it now lays them out for me. If you can see at the bottom, it's actually analysing the key meetings to prioritise as well. So I've got a 2026 meeting this afternoon, we've got a comms review meeting on Thursday, we've got our exec meeting on Thursday, and I've got to grow your list size. So what it's doing there is it's actually assessing everything as well, and it's working out which one of our priority given the history of the projects and looking at the context of around the agenda as well. Now, what I won't do, because this does take a bit of time, but can you see one of the prompts down here is prepare briefing notes for the comms review meeting. If I click that, it will go through all my shared drives. It will look for everything against the comms project review meeting. It'll pull an agenda item together, and it'll pull some action items that we need to be to discuss. I won't, as I say, I won't do that because that does take a bit of time, but that's a really powerful tool, again, for getting you ready for meetings. So when I asked the question initially, why would I not go look at my calendar? Again, you can do that, but you're not getting anything else. You're not getting everything else that this is provided by clicking on the Copilot button. So a further thing I just want to quickly show you is, so I need to speak to my colleague Mark. So I'm simply going to ask, when is my next meeting with Mark Schmidt? So none of this has been telling me here, but what I'm saying here is Copilot's giving us a list of meetings by topic, but what it's now going to go away and do, it's going to actually find out my next meeting with an individual. So it's just going to scan through all my meetings. It's found 100 up and coming meetings, which is a lot, but it's got 2 this week. So I'm in a meeting with Mark on Wednesday, which is our Redmore Business Updates meeting every Wednesday. It's whole office meeting, and then we've got exec weekly on Thursday as well. If I'm looking directly for a one-to-one with Mark, I can check whether every meeting is just the 2 of us, which we don't do. So again, I now know, brilliant. I can see Mark tomorrow in the wider meeting. If not, I'll speak to him on Thursday. So hopefully you can see that's very useful. Now, one thing I want to show you as well, because we're all got lots and lots of chats. So at Redmore, we have what's called a non-work related chit chat group. So we were talking about the World Cup, we talk welcome colleagues. We're setting up a gorgeous session around here. Now, if you remember, I mentioned Copilot shows up everywhere again. So we're in the chat, our non-work related chit chat group. So this is where we celebrate birthdays, etc. But in the top right corner, you can open Copilot there. So what's happening now is Copilot is sitting within this chat. So what I'm simply going to do is just ask Copilot. I'll start that again because this is again. So I've just started a new chat. I'm just going to say, summarize the chat of the last week. I'm sure you're all aware, you get lots and lots of messages. And some people don't have the time to go through it all. But just if you wanted a quick recap of what's actually happened, here you go. So over the last week, we've got some new starters. We've mentioned a September Gojo challenge. I've never actually seen this before, but it's given us an overall mood. The chat was largely social and positive. Activity centered on welcoming new colleagues. So really quickly there now, that's taken me 20 seconds to read, and I've just summarized a whole list. As you can see, that goes on for a long, long time of what would have taken me a lot longer to go through. Any questions around that, Liam?
We've not had any questions since Lorna's. Oh, actually, Sarah's asked the question, how do you allow Copilot to have access to calendar data?
So it does that automatically because if you within your Teams, your calendar, I'm just going to show you on the left-hand side here, Sarah, your calendar is sat within Teams, so it's automatically got access to it. So you don't have to do anything. Microsoft do tend to be going more towards putting things in Microsoft Teams for the reason that we're demonstrating here. Now, one of the most final powerful tools I'm going to show you then before we move on to Liam is analyzing meetings. Now, you can do this in Teams, but I'm just going to do it slightly differently because obviously we're on a Teams call now. So this is just simply, this is within Clipchamp. This is where Microsoft videos get stored. So don't worry if you're looking at this and thinking this looks slightly different. As I say, I can't do it within the Teams environment because we're actually on a Teams call now. But this is simply a recording of a previous webinar that we ran around digital adoption. Now, I'm sure you can see, if you want to hover over it, it's around about 1 hour, 5 minutes of a session. Now, a lot of people are more than happy to go through the session and watch it fully. But again, some people who are unable to attend might not have the time. So you can see on the right-hand side over here, I'll just shut that down. Again, I re-emphasize Copilot shows up in many different forms. There's a button in the top right corner there. So you click on that, and now you've got some brilliant prompts from Copilot itself. So let's simply say, let's recap the meeting. Now, just to re-emphasize again, this session was 1 hour, 5 minutes. And obviously you can skip through parts, but it's now going to recap it fantastically into sections where we can read it really quickly. So just to skim through, they did an intro and agenda. They touched upon core hours online consultation requirement. There was some session around survey insights, implementation guidance, practice experiences with Bex, that's Bex there talking through planning, capacity mapping and triage. Then we had a section around patient comms. There's some tools and templates. I walk through all next steps and then Q&A and closing. So within a minute or two, we've now got a firm understanding what actually happened within that webinar. If I do not wish to go through the entire webinar, brilliantly what it does, it timestamps certain sections. So I'm going to click on the 4 minutes 34 there within core hours, and it will jump to that section. Just let it catch up. It's our first failure of the day. Yeah, it's not liking that jumping for some reason. But what it would do is takes that element of that video and run you through that section. So if you're not interested in any other sections, you're able to jump straight to that and just watch at your leisure. If you don't wish to watch any of it at all, we can now ask it a further question. So let's presume there were some action items in here. We're just going to simply say, can you please list them? So right on cue, that jumped to the section I mentioned it before. So what I've actually now done is I've asked it, can you action items and next steps? So it was up to practice and PCNs to find a champion lead. There was an element around communication planning, some section around process mapping, toolkit utilization. Again, I won't go through them all, but now we've got 7 actions that need to be taken away and addressed. So you can see how really quickly we've got a little project plan there now. So all of a sudden, compared to an hour's worth of sitting and time taken, I know what the meeting's about, I know what actions were taken, and we now know what needs to be addressed. A really powerful tool just to finally show you as well is you can personalize it. So I'm going to say, can you show me actions for Stacey Thompson? Stacey is one of our colleagues. She was running the webinar. So if obviously I wasn't in this webinar, but you can ask for yourself, can you show action items or mentions of myself, and it will list these. So what it's doing now, you can see all the way down here, every single time Stacey's name was mentioned against an action, it's produced that for you. So that's really powerful and an efficient tool for you to utilize. So I'm just going to stop sharing now. So the other thing actually we could do, so if within this meeting, if it's turned on, let me just see, just bear with me. Yeah. Right, we're going to do a really live demo here, if this works. Recap. So this is the meeting we're in now, and I've gained the Copilot buttons up here. So I'm just going to ask it to recap what has happened so far. So hopefully this is everything I've just talked about over the last 24 minutes. So here we go. It's touched upon the introduction agenda that we went through, the Copilot fundamentals, what I talked through. I've done an Outlook demonstration. I shared a screen. I looked upon the email thread, took some questions from attendees. We had a Teams demonstration and chat summarization and meeting analysis, which we're now doing. So you can see that's literally everything we've just done. And really quickly, if somebody was to join now, they could skim through that and see what would catch up really quickly within the meeting. So I'm just going to stop sharing now. I'm just going to jump over to yourself. So just to summarize, before meetings, you're able to look at previous chats and highlight any open actions. You can catch up during a meeting, what's actually been discussed so far. Then after a meeting, you can capture key points, decisions, and any action items. Some really, really useful use cases for both the things I've just showed you around training videos, product demos, frontline worker videos. In essence, they're perfect for busy teams, these you can't catch up. So just to re-emphasize as well, the final point, I want to go back to my last slide I showed you, what Copilot can't do. It can't see messages or files you don't have access to. It doesn't make decisions for you, and it won't send messages or change anything without you approving it. So it works within your own permissions and always shows you answers in that context. So without further ado now, I'll take over the chat, Liam, and I'm just going to hand over to yourself. If you want to start sharing the presentation, walk people through the avatar.
No, that's fine. We did have a couple of questions before you pass over to me. If you want to run through them, or do you want to leave them to the end?
Let me just see.
I'll share my screen while you're doing that.
Yeah. You don't, so Juliet, you don't always have to have Teams. It works separately within 365 applications. Glenn, it's an app. Yeah, I can show you that afterwards, Glenn, when we're finished. No problem. If you want to hang around, I can show you that. That's fine. Yeah, Copilot records in-person meetings. What you can do for an in-person meeting is you can actually create a meeting and just have your laptop next to you, or we've done it on mobile phones before. That's how it records. So I'm just going to hand over to Liam now.
You see my screen okay? Hear me okay? Yeah.
Yeah.
Bro. Okay, yeah. So I just want to touch on our AI avatar managed service. I will just go through in detail of what the service is, what we're able to do with the avatars, what the avatars obviously are, and then we'll show you some examples as well. So I think the best way to talk about or describe the AI avatar service is to mention where it started. So when I first joined at Redmoor about 7 years ago, we were going into GP practices, we were filming videos with GPs. We did similar videos around COVID time, and what we would do, we'd sit in front of a GP, give them a script, give them a microphone, and then that GP would read off that script, give patients loads of different updates and just general messages around sort of how to stay healthy, services that the practices were offering. Now, we'd love to be able to do that, but that was when, we weren't managing many social media practices across the board with our managed service. We're now managing 800. So it's difficult for us to get out to all of the practices that we do manage. So what we've started doing is utilizing AI avatars. So AI avatars are basically AI generated or digital versions of real life people. So we're able to create, AI generated avatars or digital versions of GPs, nurses, anyone that's patient facing within the practice is always really useful to set up. We noticed that practices were having issues with their engagement across the board as well. So general NHS pieces of content and just general assets, images weren't getting the amounts of engagement that we wanted to, weren't reaching enough patients in our eyes. So what we wanted to do was find a new, easy way for GP practices to increase their engagement, but also just engage with patients across the board anyway. So that's where we started using the AI avatars. Now, it's a completely new way of engaging with patients. You can use these videos across SMS, you can use the videos across social media, but where we really find the impact is because it's so relatable. So patients want to see messages and they want to see their GPs, they want to see people at the practice, and that's how we're going to build that engagement across the board. So there's no better way than doing that via using AI avatars. We've noticed when we've looked across the board that engagement has increased by 5 times on average across the board compared to the standard NHS campaign assets that we've been using on our managed service. So I think the best way to show you what these avatars do and what these avatars are is by showing you some example videos. So the smiley man here is Michael Drew. He's a practice manager at the Spa Surgery. So in this video, it's about 1.5 minutes long, so I might not show you the whole video just to be cautious of time. But in this video, you'll notice they're talking about welcoming patients to the practice. There's little bits of information about the practice and sort of the services that the practice offers. But what you'll notice is that every single one of these people and every single one of these nurses or GPs in this video is all completely AI generated. So they're all real life people. This is all their voice. This is how they look. This is their mannerisms, but it's completely AI generated. All we had to do to set up these avatars was a quick selfie, a quick audio recording, and then we're able to pull together the script, pull together these pieces of content for them. So
just to point out, Liam, sorry, before you press play, sometimes there is a slight lag demonstrating these over Teams, so it syncs perfectly when you get the video, but just there might be a slight lag over Teams.
Yeah, and we will send out these videos afterwards so you can have a look through in your own time. Just let me know if you can't hear it or if everything is okay.
Are you looking for a new GP practice in Harrogate? Well, you're in luck. The Spa Surgery is currently welcoming new patients, and we'd love to have you join us.
Our ambition is to offer access to the right help in a timely and safe manner, based on equality and patient need. We place a high value on creating a safe and stable community around you for as long as you need us.
We are a purpose-built medical practice located on the first floor of Mowbray Square Medical Centre. There is step-free access throughout the building, ample free on-site parking, including disabled bays, and we're just a short walk or wheel from Harrogate Town Centre.
We offer our patients a choice in how they contact us, by phone, by digital form, or simply by popping in. However you choose to get in touch, you'll always receive the same friendly, welcoming service from our care navigators.
To register, visit our website at thespasurgery.co.uk or come in and speak to one of our care navigators. We're always happy to help.
So that video went out onto their social media. I think it got 40 or 50 likes across the board. Patients engage with it really well. You also notice that the practice has some sort of cult heroes in the practice. So Ben that you saw on the screen there, he's one of the receptionists. We put a video celebrating Receptionist Awareness Day onto their page as well, and that got a huge amount of likes and comments and shares from all the people that love Ben at the practice. So it just shows you it is really useful to share these videos and to share the faces behind the scenes at the practice with patients, because the reaction is always generally positive. Now, just to reiterate, every person in that video is real. They're just completely AI generated, but I will go into more detail around how we create the avatars in a moment. So that's an example of some of the longer form videos that you can put onto social media. Here's a shorter example of a video that we used with a practice in London. Basically what we were doing with these videos, we were sending text messages out to patients. So this was a text message around inviting the patients in for a smear test. But to accompany that text message, we had a personalised message from the GP. Again, that it's not the GP, but it is the AI generated avatar. So Dr. Vidali Ellis didn't say any of these words. It's completely generated by us. She gave us a couple of key messages that she wanted to focus on in the message. We pulled together the script, we generated it for them, and then they sent out that video to their patients and made some really positive impacts. And we'll have a look at that case study in a moment. So again, I'll just share this video with you.
Hello, I'm Dr. Camila Vidali Ellis, one of the GPs here at Streatham High Practice. We've noticed you're overdue for your cervical smear test. Cervical screening is one of the most effective ways to prevent cervical cancer. It can detect changes early, long before you notice any symptoms. Even if you've had a test abroad, it's really important to have one taken with the NHS. Please use the link in your text message to book your smear test as soon as possible.
Okay, so what is the advantage of using these avatars? So the first thing is, obviously, we're not made to be stood or we've not been trained to speak in front of a camera. I know me personally, I'm awful at speaking in front of a camera. If you put a microphone, a script and a camera in front of my face, I completely fumble. I'll probably go red, start blushing, and I can't go ahead and keep talking throughout that video. So these avatars are the perfect versions of us. They're perfect on-screen versions of us. So every single take, it's one take needed, one script, one set of content, and we can go and generate that, and it comes out as that perfected version of yourself. There's no nerves, there's no bad lighting. You've got that confident delivery every time. When we create these videos, we create the script, we create the on-screen text. That's all generated for you. All we need from yourselves is the caption. All we need from yourselves, is the key messages. So, for instance, say you wanted to get a video out to patients around, flu vaccinations. All we would need is the key messages from you. What do you want to focus on? Do you want to focus on a specific cohort of patients? Do you want to focus on eligibility? Do you want to maybe do some myth busting videos? That's all we need from you. You send that content through to us. We'll create the script. We'll create the graphics. We'll create the captions to go along with that video, and then we'll send that over to you for approval. There's no reshoots needed. There's no studio needed. Everything is done in one take. So all we need to do, we'll send your GP, your nurses, anyone that's patient facing at the practice, or anyone that you want to create an avatar for at the practice. We'll send them a link. All they do, they go onto the platform, they take a quick selfie, they read off a 15-second script, and then once they've read off that script, all they do is submit the avatar. That comes straight through to us. We can generate that avatar. We can change the outfits of the avatar. Again, we don't create any videos without the approval of the practice or without the consent of the practice. Everything is consented by, everything is approved, signed off by that practice. And here's an example of what the avatars can look like and what the videos can look like on screen or on a social media platform. So you can see that was Sophie, Hannah Booth that we just saw on the video before from Spa Surgery. So this is their page if you want to go and have a look at their page and see some of the videos that they've put on there and the engagements that they're getting. To this one, 29 likes, 6 comments and 1 share. I think this was a video around the CQC. We had another video from Dr. Ganesh talking about, the temperature rises and the heat waves and staying safe in the sun. Okay, so
sorry to interrupt. Just a couple of questions. The main one, the language element. Have we got an example of that to show people?
Yeah, I'll show that at the end.
Is that your crescendo? Have I spoke your crescendo there?
Yeah, you have. You just.
Yeah, sorry, mate. People are dying to see it. That's all.
Is there any other questions, or is that it?
They've all been sorted. Thank you.
Bro. Okay, so where do we use videos? Now, obviously, we've spoken about social media and SMS. Social media, we're pushing the videos across Facebook, Instagram. We can use it for LinkedIn campaigns personally for our own use. You can also create TikTok videos and other videos on other platforms. The social media element is purely from an engagement point of view. So if you're a practice and you feel like you're struggling to engage with patients on social media, the posts that you're putting on aren't really impacting on the uptake of services or just on your engagements in general, then this is a really, really good way to boost that through the short form videos and that are stopping those users from scrolling, because social media is just so fast paced now. I know me, I sit there on Instagram Reels in an evening and I'll be scrolling through and you don't really notice anything until something pops out of you. So if you're posting just general assets and it's just general images, you're going to really struggle to engage those patients. So videos like that can really stop the patients in the tracks when they're scrolling through. The SMS, again, I'll show you, or I'll talk through like Richard mentioned, the multilingual aspect and where we've used the SMS or where we've used the videos through SMS before, but we can send these videos out directly to patients. So like we looked at that video from Dr. Camille Vidali-Ellis, that was all around cervical screening, but you can send out invites to patients around whatever topic it is. Again, you just send through the information to us and we can pull together that video. So it's really good for messages like screening messages, vaccinations, health checks, and we'll talk about a health check case study in a moment. Waiting room screens and websites are obviously a biggie when it comes to using these videos. So we can create videos that are perfect for the waiting room screens. We can add captions in there so that patients can actually see what's being said. Really good ways of just informing patients whilst they wait in the practice and just answer some general questions that patients already have without them having to go up to the front desk. And internal training toolkits. So this is actually what this software was developed for. So we've been using it for sort of just general content across the board and, social media content, SMS content. But you can actually create internal toolkits and training videos for members of staff. So for your training days, if there's anything that you did want to mention, or if you had any newsletters, for example, that you wanted to send out, or internal newsletters, you can use the avatars to convey those messages across the board. So to show where this has worked in practice, it was a few months ago now, but we did a campaign or a program around health checks in Lancashire. We worked with 4 practices across the board. The aim was to try and increase the uptake of NHS health checks within those practices. You can see across the board, we've got the numbers here. So their baselining was 394, that increased to 1,000. And the patients flagged, which is really, really important, that was baselined at 77 and that increased to 211. So where these avatars were used, they were used for social media videos, but we were also, using these videos across the board with the SMS, and that's where the multilingual videos came in. And I'll show you what they look like in a moment, but this software is actually multilingual. So you can create videos in whatever language you choose. So say you have some Polish patients that are more difficult to reach. You may have some patients that speak in Spanish, Portuguese, Romanian. Synthesia software actually translates these videos into over 150 plus different languages. So it's not happened many times where a practice has come to us and said, we've got this cohort of patients that speaks this language. Do you have this language available? Usually the answer is yes. And it's really, really good for increasing the uptake of services with those patients. You know, when they see a video of their GP talking in their language, they're instantly interacted with that. And I'll show you a case study here of some work that we did with Operos in London. So we had some groups of patients, especially around sort of the flu vaccinations, smear campaigns that weren't really engaging with the practice and engaging with the services. So what we did, we sent out these text messages to patients accompanied by the videos in the different languages. And we saw some really, really positive uptakes and really, really positive increases in the percentage of people that were booking in for appointments. So you can see here on the right, we've got a little bit of a chart here. So patients that were sent these, I think there was around 12 or 15 Somalian patients that we sent the video out to in Somali. And they had an uptake of 26%, which is absolutely incredible across the board from only sending those invites out to 15 patients. We had the same for the Spanish patients, Portuguese, Polish, so you can see the percentages here. The way that worked is the practice sent through the information to us, asked us to create these videos, and then we also created them some SMS messages to accompany the videos. We could see some of the, I mean, I'll show you in a moment, but you can actually view the analytics from each message that you send out. So I think a difficulty with practice at the moment is when you do send out a text message to patients, you can't actually tell if they've managed to read that message or if they've actually seen that message. With these videos, we can now see how many patients have viewed the message. We can see how many patients have viewed the video. We can see how many patients have completed the video. We can see the engagement rates on the video. So it works really, really well across the board. Now, I'll just stop sharing my screen for a second, and I'll show you what these videos look like, because they are really useful. Have you got any more questions in the chat, Richard?
No, I managed to sort it out. People are just keen to see this translation video.
Perfect. Okay, so I'll show an example of the video that I showed before, just so you've obviously seen the English version, and now we can show you the video in some other languages. Okay. So, can everybody see my screen here? Yeah?
Yeah, it's loaded now, Liam.
Bro. So this is a video that we just watched in English.
Hello, I'm Dr. Camilla.
This is now Dr. Ellis talking in Polish.
Witam, jestem dr Kamila Vida-Ellis, jeden z lekarzy pierwszego kontaktu w Streatham High Practice.
So you can see it's still her voice, it's still her talking, it's not just some AI dubbed accent that's been put over. You know, this is still her. All the text.
Jest jednym z najskuteczniejszych sposobów zapobiegania rakowi szyi.
I don't speak Polish. I'm not sure if there's anyone else that speaks Polish in the chat here, but all of these have been signed off by the practice. Again, Portuguese.
Olá, sou a doutora Camila Vida-Ellis, uma das médicas de família aqui na Streatham High.
It's so seamless. We've had some patients that come into the practice and start talking to their GP in that language, just because, you know, the translations are spot on and the translations work so well. So you can really see, you know, it explains itself. It's these videos are so useful for those difficult to reach patients and for those difficult to reach cohorts. Now, does anyone have any other questions that haven't been answered? If you want to unmute your mic or put another question in the chat.
I don't think there was anything coming through. There's one final thing I wanted to point out. Thank you very much for that. I appreciate it. Obviously, if there's any questions you want to send us after the session, you're more than welcome to. Also, just to let you know, obviously, we've just done some taster sessions here around Copilot. If you're interested in doing a deeper dive for your ICB, feel free to send us an email, and obviously, we'll drop us a line. We'll be putting contact details on the email that we're sending out following this webinar. But yeah, thank you very much for everybody attending. Really appreciate you taking time out of your day, especially at lunchtime. Hope you found it useful. If there's anything else you want to know, just feel free to drop. What I will do now is I'll just pop our support desk. So I'm just going to pop that email in there. So yeah, as I say, if you've got any questions or anything, feel free to drop us a line. I think somebody did want some help around the Copilot app. You feel free to stay on and we can have a look at that if you wish to do so. But thank you very much. Really appreciate your time, everybody.